Hello and welcome to Missy's Imaginings. We've had a little bit of a whirlwind this past week. so we did post a couple videos. One was the outfit for the purple coat, which is our series of 7 coats in 7 colors. And we got that one finished. But then we also had a trip, and a couple days before we were going to leave, my daughter decided she needed a dress because we were going to go and see Dan and Phil on tour. And my daughter, a different daughter, when she got the tickets, she actually got meet and greet tickets. So we're going to meet them. So, so my younger daughter, Maddie, decided, well, she needed to have a project of making a dress. So that video is already posted. There's not a lot of sewing. Well, there's no sewing, but just kind of laying out the pattern and choosing which one she wanted. And it's just kind of an overall view of what our project was. But it ended up, the pattern, we used her measurements and it got kind of wonky with fitting her. And so we had to take it in a lot, but then I had to make the facings, sizing, match what we'd altered on the dress, and there was just a lot of work that was just needed to be handled, that it was just too much to try to get done in that amount of time, and then also manipulate the camera and angles and like that. And we were up and down a lot, so having the boom arm with the camera, it would have just been too much of a hassle to try to film all that. So it's kind of an overview, but if you're interested in seeing what we did for her dress, that's already posted on the channel. I also have an American Girl doll trunk that I received, and I did an unboxing, and I also did some repairs on the trunk, so that video will be coming soon as well. It's all ready to post, but like I say, I got it all posted, but I already have a lot posted on YouTube, so it will be coming shortly and you'll be able to see that. Okay, so which brings us to this video, is the last coat in the 7 coats, 7 colors series. So this is the pink coat. It's kind of a rosy, like a dusty rosy pink. And so that will be the coat. And so we're going to be doing that project to finish out the series in this video. Then for the dolls that this will fit, I also ordered a new body for one of the guys because it was on sale. So I have that to open and string and wire all before the doll show that's coming up on Saturday. So I probably won't have this all edited before the show, but this outfit will be done and it will be ready for the show. So if you were able to go to the doll show, then you've probably already seen this outfit in person, but we're gonna record the sewing for posterity. This outfit will be the same as far as the pants and the shirt go as other outfits in the collection. So those will go over very briefly as far as the shirt and the pants, because they're just going to be the same. So the only thing that will be different will be the actual coat. So that's what we'll take a look at as far as the pieces and how to put them together. It's going to be very similar to the blue coat as far as the patch pockets. But there will be a couple differences. So it will be kind of a mixture. It will have the patch pockets, but it will have a waistband, and then it will have a zipper. So some of the things are the same as elements from the other coats that we've already done, but it's going to be a little bit of a mix-up. So we'll see which ones are required for this coat. So yeah, we'll switch everything up so that we can see what we're doing. And we'll start sewing the pink coat to finish out our series. So here we go. Here are the pieces for the pattern set that we are doing today. And I'm going to get a cord out of the way. There we go. My machine, I have it open just because the light burnt out and I need to get this little guy into the sewing machine shop so that I can get it serviced. This burnt out, the foot doesn't want to stay up, it snaps down. The belt is screaming at me sometimes. The bobbin winder doesn't always want to work. So my poor little machine needs some help. So that's why this is open and it looks a little wonky having that open and seeing the inside of the machine. But that's why, so that the light from my ring light and my lamps can shine down here and help me see what's happening because this one, it died. So all that out of the way, we have our pieces. The pants are the same as we did for the very first outfit that would have the red coat. They have the longer side panel pocket, so it has a longer opening for the front pocket. It's double pleated, and so that pair of pants is the same as in the very first video. So we're not going to spend any time putting these together. I'll just do that off camera. They're just the same. The shirt is the t-shirt style, and it has it's made of a cotton that does not stretch, so it will have a back opening that will close with snaps just like several of the other ones, and I've cut some strips on the bias so I can put those together to finish out the collar or the neck line for that shirt. The only difference on this shirt is I had a little bit extra fabric, so I cut a little piece to have a front pocket on the front. So I will simply use a serging stitch or overlock to do the top edge, fold it over, hem it, then we'll fold these edges over and top stitch it down onto the shirt so that we have a front pocket. That's the only thing that's going to be different in the shirt. Everything else is the same that we've done before, so again, we're not going to sew that on camera. Now we come to the pieces of the coat. Like several of the other coats, the facing is going to be of a fabric that matches the shirt because it is part of an outfit collection, so the coat will go with the outfit. So the facing on the front and back facing will be the same fabric as the shirt, as well as the inside of the collar will be that fabric. So the back side of the collar is the vinyl and the front side is the fabric. This coat will feature some pockets on the side seams. So we'll have to go over how to do those pockets, but they will also be of the fabric like the facings. So those are the facing pieces and the pocket pieces, which are basically hidden except for the collar. Then we have the pockets that are patch pockets. We have 2 large and 2 small, just like on the blue coat, and they will be assembled exactly the same way. So this will be hemmed, this edge will be hemmed, then this edge will be gathered with just some, I'll do it by hand with a needle and thread, and I'll knot it here and just slip stitch all the way around, then pull it tight together, which helps these edges come and kind of make that curve. And then I can put all those little gathers to the corners so it will lay really nice when I go to hem that flat part. Then this will sew, let's see, we'll do it right sides. That will sew it like this, and we'll sew the side seams, turn it right side out, and then once it's sewn, it will be sewn onto the coat here, 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 and then across this edge with this loose, and then that will go down, close with a snap. So we'll be doing that on all 4 of the pockets, just like the blue coat. All right, here comes some differences. This coat sleeves will gather the top so that we'll be able to fit it into the armholes, but this coat will also have cuffs on the sleeve. So you can see here that the cuff is shorter than the sleeve, so this will have to be gathered to match the length of the cuff. So it'll have a bit of a gather on the sleeve ends to fit it to the cuff, because these are not stretchy cuffs. Now you can use a knit fabric, kind of like we did on the red coat, if you want that to be to sew it, stretch it, and then have it naturally pull. But on this coat, I am going to actually gather this edge to fit the cuff. Then it will be sewn onto the cuff, and then the cuff will come around like this, and then we'll have a cuff on the end of the sleeves. So that's a little bit different than what we've done before. Then the coat itself, it's a little bit wider here because we will have the pockets, a small one on top, a large one on the bottom. Then this waistband will also be gathered to fit the waistband at the bottom of the coat. So the bottom edge of the coat will be gathered to match this, so it will have an actual waistband, and then this will be fitted to the waistband, and then the closure will be with a zipper. And I did buy, I'm standing up here to reach my zippers, I did buy separating zipper, and this was the closest pink I could find, but because we're using this fabric for the facings and the pockets and the inside of the collar, I think this zipper will be okay. So it has a little bit larger pull, just because it was the only pink I could find, and so it is a little bit larger, but since it's for 3rd scale, I think it will be fine. Now once again, if you didn't watch the previous videos, when you're working with zippers and you're using a separating zipper for a jacket, okay, this is the warning I always say. A zipper can always be cut to size if you get a zipper that's too long, because often you won't be able to find the exact length of the front of the coat. We'll move this out of the way. Plus the length of the band. A 7-inch would be too short, but then the next increment up would probably be too long. That's okay. You can always get a zipper a little bit longer that can be cut to size, but here's the warning. On a separating zipper, it's made, of course, to separate, to come completely apart. So you want to be careful that when you're measuring and you're going to shorten your zipper, that you don't get ahead of yourself and cut off this end. This is the money end. Separating zippers are a lot more expensive than just normal little garment zippers, and it's because you're paying for this part of the zipper. I don't know what it's called, but that's the part that enables the zipper to close and come apart. So never, never, never cut off this end. Be very careful that when you cut it to length, the end that's cut on a separating zipper is always going to be the top, because then the top edge of the zipper can simply be folded back in the seam of your garment, and then you can put some extra stitches here or a bead here that would prevent the pull from going off the top. But if you cut this off, you will have no way to link your zipper back together. So just be careful when you're working with separating zippers. Don't ever cut off the wrong end. So there we go. So here's our separating zipper that will be the closure. So that's the pieces that we have to work with. The first thing I'm going to do when I start sewing these is I'll put the jacket fronts and back together at the shoulders, and I will top stitch the seam allowance open. Then I will be putting my basting stitches on the tops of the sleeves and at the bottom, and I'll be sewing the cuff to the bottom of the sleeve. So we'll do that. I will be preparing the pockets like we talked about. I will be taking the collar and with the right sides together, the normal routine, sewing up one side across the top and down the other side, trim away the excess seam allowance, flip it right side out, and then top stitch it, and then stitch the bottom two edges, the raw edges, together. Then I'll fold it in half, put a snip in the center back. I'll take the facings, I will put a snip in the center back as well. I will put these together at the shoulders, like so. Then once it's together, I will be serging all the way from this edge up around and then back down the other edge. So all that is my pre-sewing that I'll do to get everything ready. Then once I have these together, I will also be measuring, and these pocket pieces will be sewn to the sides of the fronts and the back, and it will go right about to the edge, maybe a quarter inch down from the edge of the vinyl, because there will be a waistband on the coat. So the waistband would come about here, and then this will have a seam allowance that I can trim if I want. So we'll probably say roughly an inch down. There we go. Oh, it might just be right to the edge of the vinyl. There we go, maybe right to the edge. So we're going to sew these pockets to this with right sides together with just a little 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So not a full quarter inch, only an 1/8 of an inch to sew those pockets here, because then they will turn out like this. So that's what I'm going to do first. We'll get all that prep sewing done, then we'll come back and look at our next steps. Now we'll take a look at the pieces thus far. So our facing is put together at the shoulders, and I went ahead and serged around this outside edge. Then I just need to match up my corners, match up my shoulder seams, and then I'm going to make a small notch in the center back like that. So that's done. Then we have the body of the jacket. I've put it together at the shoulder seams and top stitched. Then we did the pockets and sewed them on, and I have snap closures. There we go. And then little plastic sparkly beads for buttons. And on these closures, we'll look at the big one. So what I did is I gathered that gathering stitch, and so as I was talking about, what that enables is when you pull it snug, it helps all these little gathers that you can shove to the corner, and it just makes it easier than when I top stitch it to keep all these rumples and gathers at the corners, to just make it go around easier so it doesn't pleat and have big uneven wrinkles that lay funny here. So that pre-hand gathering really does help that. So I have those all on the front of the coat. I went ahead and sewed the side, the pockets on. First I sewed right sides together, then I turned it out and did a little bit of top stitching inside that seam allowance. So let's grab my little ruler here, and we'll put it on a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So the side seam is going to be at the end of that ruler. So you can see how that pocket is all inside the seam allowance. So then when the seam allowance is done, that pocket will be turned in like this and it won't show. It'll be hidden. So that top stitching just helps to keep it in place. So I have all those pockets done on the sides and then the sides of the back as well. So that's the part of the body of the coat. Then the collar is done and top stitched with the fabric on the inside there. Then on the sleeves, I gathered this edge inside the seam allowance and then fitted it to the cuff. But here is how we're going to do the cuff. So I did not take it edge to edge. Hopefully this will show. I folded this raw edge of the sleeve inward 1/4 inch on each side, and then I fitted it to the cuff. Now to sew the cuff and finish the cuff part, I'm going to fold 1/4 inch in on this edge so that the good side is showing. Then I'm going to take that fold right here and I'm going to match it up with the seam of where I actually hooked it to the sleeve. Hooked it, connected it to the sleeve. So let's go ahead and put a clip here. And then I'll do the same on the other side. So I'm folding it up 1/4 inch. And then I'm going to line that folded edge with the seam where it's connected to the sleeve. Like this. And I'll go ahead and clip that just to hold it in place. There we go. So now what I'll do is I'm going to sew right from the tip here down to where that sleeve edge is. So from my thumbnail on the edge of the clip, I'm going to sew just across the edge of the cuff. Then I'll trim like this little corner out of the way on each side. Then I'll flip it right side out. So let's go ahead and do that just so we can take a look at how that ends up finishing our cuff. So let's see if my foot will cooperate. A lot of times it doesn't want to. So we're going to have 1/4 inch seam allowance on the edge of that cuff. We'll sink our needle, and I need to make sure that matches the edge here. I'm just going to sew right down to where that actually matches the edge of my sleeve. And I'm just going to back tack all the way back. There we go. And I'll trim that. And I'm going to trim that little, just that corner out of the seam allowance. Yeah, and then I'll do this side as well. Move that. Oh, my foot actually stayed up. My poor machine. It's getting very tired. Kind of like its owner. Okay, so there we go. 1/4 inch seam allowance. We'll sink our needle. We're going to go ahead and back tack while we're there. And I noticed I didn't make my seam small, or my stitches smaller, but I think it'll be alright. Alright, there we go. Back tack that in. Okay. We'll go ahead and trim this thread, trim that out of the way. Trim that 1/4 inch corner there. Alright, so now what we can do, and it's a little off, but I think it'll still be alright. So we can turn those in. Now we'll go ahead and put that right side out. Now this edge is already turned under, so all I have to do now is slip stitch this, and it did sink a little bit, so I can pull that up with my stitching. But now I just hand finish that, and then I have a nice finished cuff on my sleeve. So that's all done. And then it'll be ready to be on the end of the coat. And hopefully I didn't make it too small. I'm wondering if maybe I did. Yeah, I might have to fit that on my doll. That looks a little small. So I might have to go ahead and take that off and make some bigger cuffs. I'm just thinking that might not fit around the doll's wrist. So I may end up making that a little bit longer because I have more of this vinyl. So I may take it off so I have a bigger one. And then when I do that and I attach it to the sleeve, I'll just loosen up this a little bit, and then I will make sure that I don't have any holes showing when I put the new cuff on. But I think that might end up just a little bit too tight. So, but anyway, that is how you finish up the cuff on the end of a sleeve so that it looks nice on the outside and the inside. So there we go. That's how we do the sleeves. Then this will be gathered. I did basting inside the seam allowance, so that can be gathered to put into the arm spots on our coat. My next order of business is I've clipped the edges of the collar. Then I will go ahead and snip to the seam allowance along the neckline of my jacket, and I will start at the center back and then open this up and pin this collar to the neck edge. So I'll be pulling, and that will open up a little bit once I get those snips in there. But then once my collar is ready to go, I will, let me grab my other scissors. I will stitch it in place just to hold it secure. So this is what I mean about snipping the edge here. And we'll go all the way around. There we go. So I'm just snipping inside the seam allowance. And that just helps the edge when I go to try to straighten that out, that it opens up more like a straight line a little bit better, so that I can get the collar secured on here. And I'm going to have the good vinyl side of the collar towards the back, because that'll be the back of the collar when it's on there. So I'm going to get this all in place and sew it on. And once I have the collar in, it will be time to be putting in, or do I want to? No. You know what? I think I'm going to have to go ahead and do my zipper after the facing. Dun, 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 dun. Because the facing has to be on before we put on the waistband. Oh yeah, so the facing would be next. So the zipper's going to have to go in just sewn on once the facing is in place. I'm not going to be able to put it inside the facing because the zipper is going to need to extend beyond it. So I can't do that until I have my waistband on, or I won't know how far to go down. So I think I'm going to go ahead and get the facing put in there. So I'll get the collar secured, then I will sandwich that collar between the good side of the coat and the good side of the facing and get that sewn on. So it will go up the front, around the neck, and down the other front. Then turn all that to the right side, and then I will be able to put the zipper in place once that's done. And I think that will work all right. But then I'll be able to put the waistband on and then put the zipper in, so my zipper will go all the way to the bottom of the waistband. So I think that's what we'll do. And I'm sorry if that's clear as mud. So I should tell my steps here again. So collar first, then the facing, then we'll do the sleeves, then the side seams, then the waistband, and the zipper last. There we go. Okay, so I did lengthen this, and I just made this edge the same length as my sleeve, but I left some of the gathering basting stitches in, so it still has kind of a nice puckery look instead of just flat. So I'm glad I left those in because I like this look. Then I turned the cuff away from the sleeve, and I turned the seam allowance towards the cuff, and I did top stitch along this edge just to hold everything secure, and it'll look nice. So now when I go to put this edge, this folded edge of my cuff edge, I'll have a clean line where I can line that up with the edge of the sleeve, so I can do those ends again and finish off my cuff that way. Then when I turn it right side out and I have the cuff finished, I'll probably top stitch this like up the cuff, across the edge, and down the other side as well, just to help keep all that flat. So then that's what the end of my sleeve will look like. So I'm much happier with the ability to fit this around the doll's wrist. It'll give me a little extra room since this doesn't have the same stretch as a knit cuff. So I'm happy with that change. If you're using a fabric that does not stretch like a knit, then I recommend just cutting it the same length as the width of your sleeve. But go ahead and still do that gathering on the edge of the sleeve, because now when I go to put it on there, this pucker is still remaining, and then I can just fold the edges and fit it just like we did before, even though most of that will be gone. So there we go. I did fix the sleeves before I started in on our other steps. The facing and collar are now put in, and the collar can be folded down or worn up. And so now the next step will be to actually put the sleeves into the openings. So I have put the closures on the cuffs already, so they will close like so. And because of the way we finish the cuffs, now this is automatically folded in, so that on the finished jacket we have a nice folded edge right here. So the next step, I've gathered these. It will not be puckered this much, but now I need to decide. I think I want it to go, let's see, so I'm going to snap this. So then you need to decide when you're doing it. It can be either way. If you want the little button closure to come over the top and be on the inside like this, or if you want it to go like underneath like so, so that it would show on the back. I think I'm going to put it on this side so that from the back is where the cuff will wrap around, and then it will go underneath on the inside. So this sleeve, when it's finished, will be on this side of the coat. So we're going to start with this one. Then to put in the sleeve, I always snip just a little bit to the seam line in the real curved parts of the arm opening. So I'll do that on both the front and back pieces. Just a little bit there. And again, that just makes it open up a little bit so we can have an easier time getting the sleeve fit in. And when I put in the sleeves, because I really don't want these to wobble very much, I will be pinning, but I need to pin and keep the pinholes within a 1/4 inch seam allowance so I don't have any holes showing on the outside. So when I put in sleeves, if you've watched very much, you know this, I always start from the outside edge of my sleeve. I'll put one little pin here. There we go. So now you can see how that's pinned inside the seam allowance. And then I'm going to smooth this out as I start going around the opening of the coat. I'll get another pin here. Again, staying within that 1/4 inch seam allowance. I just have to, my thumb isn't working very well to hold it in place. There we go. And right there. Now with 2 pins holding that side, I'm going to come to the other side of the arm opening. Get my threads out of the way. Now I'm going to pin this side within that seam allowance. Let's see if we can get it to be even there. Alright, we'll do a pin here and do one more and see how I'm smoothing that out. And so the gathering just helps to fit this in a little bit easier, but as I go up towards the shoulder, I'm straightening that out. And the reason I gather it is to, first of all, it just helps it fit into the opening a little bit better, but also if it ends up that my sleeve has a little bit more fullness than the opening, because usually I like to plan my patterns that way just to make sure I have enough sleeve. Then if there are any extra gathers, they're going to end up at the very top so that I don't end up with gathers or puckers down under the arm or like on the back. They all that extra fullness ends up at the very top of the sleeve. So if you've watched very many of the videos, you kind of are aware of that already. But if you're new to sewing some doll clothes, then that might be just a helpful hint. So we're stretching that out, smoothing it out. So see how those gathers are smoothing out. And now I can go ahead and pin the top. And this is going to fit really well. So I'll put one pin on this side. There we go. And I actually might need to stretch it a little bit. Oh, there we go. Looks like it's going to be a good fit once I get everything smoothed out. Smooth that out. And there we go. So now when I sew this, because I kept my basting within the 1/4 inch seam allowance, then I will just take a full 1/4 inch seam, and I usually sew with the sleeve down because that way I can pull my jacket away from the seam as I sew, So I'll start sewing here, and as I go, I'm going to be taking a hold of the jacket to pull it away from that seam line so that I don't end up with any pleats in the body of the coat. And I'll probably need to pull a little bit on this one because I don't want a pleat on that shoulder. So I'll need to stretch that a little bit more where I can feel that there's no pleat there. So that way I can go around and make sure I'm not getting any pleats in the body of my jacket. So I'll get both of the sleeves in, and then we'll look at our next order of business. To sew the side seams and the pockets, I'm going to start from, let's grab our little ruler again, about, let's see, we've got 1.5 inches from the bottom of the cuff is where I'm going to start sewing, and I'll just back tack and start sewing here. I'll sew to the underarm. I'm going to have the seam allowances, which I've trimmed, turned towards the sleeve. Then I'm going to sew straight down to where this pin is, and then I'll come back up. Then you sew around the pocket and you come up onto the coat again, up to this pin, and then back down. So let's see if I have my little pencil here. So our seam allowance is going to look like this. We're going to come down and then sew back up and then come around and go all the way around the pocket, and then we'll come to here, then we'll go up to the pin and then back down the side, so that this little overlap of the pocket here and here provides the edges of the pocket on the actual coat, and then the depth of the pocket gives a little bit more room there. But that's how you sew the pocket in. So you just come down, back up, around the pocket, up, and then back down. So I'll do that on both sides, and then it will be time to go ahead and gather the waist from the front through the back and all the way around to gather it to fit the waistband. And then the waistband, the waistband will be put on in a very similar manner that we did the cuffs on the sleeves. It'll be pretty much the same thing, but instead of being on the edge of a sleeve, it'll be the edge of the jacket. So then we'll sew that on, and then once the waistband is on, I'll go ahead and put the zipper on just like I did. Well, it'll be a little bit different than the purple, more like what we did on the red coat, because I already have the facing and everything in, so it's just going to be a matter of laying it onto the zipper and sewing it down. So yeah, that's our next steps to finish up the coat. Here is the jacket all done. So this portion of the outfit is finished. I have the sleeves all ready to snap around the wrist here. Maybe. Maybe if I can see what I'm aiming the snap on. Well, there we go. I didn't think that would be that difficult. There we go. So here is how the waistband looks on this coat. Oh, I forgot to top stitch around the bottom. I'll probably have to do that. And here's the back, which I do like because I like how this looks. And yeah, I need to top stitch the bottom of the waistband. But here's how the zipper looks, and it was a little bit of a challenge, but I got it in, and I got it in without having it be really uneven. Then here's the inside with the pockets and the facing. So yeah, I'll go ahead and get the top stitching done on the bottom of the waistband, and then I'll go ahead and work on those pants and the shirt so we can see the outfit all done. Here is our finished outfit. So we have the white pants with the double pleats in the front. So there's 2 pleats, and then it has the longer pockets. There we go. So it has the longer pocket edge. The shirt with just a little pocket on the chest part there, the inset pockets of the jacket. So if you put your hands in here, there we go. There's the pockets there, then the pockets on the outside, and our zipper, which actually turned out pretty level. So happy about that. And yeah, so then here's the back with the gathering of the coat. It's kind of wrapped around the stand there. But there's the back of the coat. So it's fairly plain except for just, you know, the gathers here. But I do like how they look. He's kind of leaning forward a little bit. There we go. And yeah, so there's the finished outfit. And that finishes up our 7 coats in 7 color series. So thank you for watching. And I'm not sure what project we're going to work on next, but there'll be something. So until then, have a wonderful, wonderful day. And thanks for watching. Bye.